Greetings and hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Balkan History Association webinar series. I'm Timothy French. Today's webinar is a presentation by Professor Ivaylo NAYDENOV, and the presentation is titled Bulgarian Merchants and Their Networks Between Ottoman Bulgaria and the Danubian Principalities, Romania, in the mid and late 19th century. Professor NAYDENOV has a PhD degree from Sofia University St. Kliment of Ohrid, and he is Chief Assistant Professor at the Institute for Historical Studies at the Bulgarian Academy of Sciences. He also teaches economic history at the Faculty of History, Sofia University St. Kliment of Ohrid, and at the University of National and World Economy. His research interests include the economy and social history of the Bulgarian national revival period, particularly trade, commercial contacts between Ottoman Bulgaria and Danubian Principalities/Romania, individual entrepreneurs and merchant families, commercial enterprises, entrepreneurial networks and crafts, along with the theory of entrepreneurship and historiography. So I would like to welcome Professor NAYDENOV, and the floor is yours.
Hello. First of all, I would like to thank to Balkan History Association, to Mr. Mihai Dragnea for giving me the opportunity to present my research, and to thank to you being host of my talk. Hello to everyone. Yes, the title of my talk today is Bulgarian Merchants and Their Networks Between Ottoman Bulgaria and the Danubian Principalities in the mid and the late 19th century. So I'll share my screen because I prepared a presentation. So this, yeah. Okay. Okay, so the aim of the talk proposed is to shed light on numerous Bulgarian merchants originating from the central part of the Balkans, lands under Ottoman rule, and on their social and entrepreneurial networks. It should be noted that there has been a long scholarly interest in the presence and commercial activities of Bulgarian immigrants, including traders in Wallachia and Moldavia, later Romania. The study is conducted by Dimitar Kosev, Virginia Pascaleva, Vladimir Diculescu, Nicolae Jecev, Veselin Traikov, Constantin Veliki, David Cohen, Cornelia Pacustea, Danielopou, Christu Glushkov, and others have shed considerable light on this important subject. However, these scholars have generally provided an overview of the activities of numerous merchants operating at different levels. In this context, they have presented concise information regarding merchants' places of origin and settlement, as well as brief accounts of the commodities they traded, their business partners, and related matters. These issues, however, have not been subject to a thorough analysis. Nevertheless, the body of work produced by these scholars represents a significant achievement, and it is an essential step toward further expanding our knowledge of the subject. The primary sources for my research and the current talking are some published and predominantly unpublished documents, more specifically personal and business letters, commercial ledgers, circular letters, brief notes on the quantities of traded goods. They are stored in different institutions, such as Bulgarian Historical Archive in the National Library, Scientific Archive at the Bulgarian Academy of Sciences, Central State Archive of Bulgaria, regional museums in Bulgaria, National Archives of Romania. All mentioned available sources, regardless of whether they are complete archival collections, so personal and family funds, or separate documents, for instance, business letters, give some important details. It is important to know that extracted information is of uniform content. However, it can give ground for some firm conclusions. It should be underlined that the sources from the first quarter of the 19th century are scarce, but still they give the opportunity to make some important generalizations. In contrast, there is abundant information available from the subsequent time frame, starting from the 1840s, 1850s, until the Bulgarian liberation from Ottoman rule. And here and in the next slides, I included some primary sources I've managed to encounter during my archival work. In the first part of my talk, I will give first some brief, otherwise necessary clarifications regarding Bulgarian merchants. Second, some theoretical considerations regarding commercial entrepreneurship and social entrepreneurial networks will be pointed out. In the third place, I will present and analyze abundant data extracted from the mentioned primary sources. And speaking about the primary sources, here you can see some documents related to the functioning of the Pulevi House, Pulevi Georgievi. For instance, a document dated 1848 about the financial resources they invested. I mean here the partners and the relatives, Pulevi and Georgievi. There is also additional information regarding the division of the mentioned financial resources, the commodities between the three branches of the commercial company Pulevi Georgievi in Karovu, Bucharest, and Galați, and so on. Here you may see, for instance, a letter sent by Peter Krstić, a merchant from Svištov, to his brother Dimitar, who resided in Brăila in the spring of 1858. And actually, Dimitar went to Brăila in order to buy some goods, and his brother informed him the prices of such goods as coffee, olive oil, hardware products in Svištov. Here you may see another such document, a circular letter announcing the establishment of the merchant house Yakim Popov and Ivan Stefanov in Svištov. Actually, in the left, the text is in Bulgarian. The same text in the right is in French language. And the letter is addressed to Sviatko Radoslavov, another prominent merchant from the town of Svištov. I'm going to deal with him later in more details. Okay. In the context of 19th century Bulgaria, a merchant was a person engaged in commission trade or in commerce on his own account, supplying the Ottoman and or foreign markets, primarily those of the Danubian Principalities, Central Europe, with raw material, foodstuff, and craft items such as hides, textiles. Some of them imported colonial goods. Such merchants were also engaged in money lending and in some cases served as tax farmers or lease agricultural land and immovable properties. There are numerous examples of merchant entrepreneurs who begin their economic careers as craftsmen. Others combine craft production with their exports activities. This was the case with many such enterprising people from Sevlievu, Lovech, Gabrovo, or Târnovo. The hierarchy of Bulgarian merchants during the 19th century can be represented as a pyramid. At its apex stood large-scale traders, some of whom were based in Ottoman Bulgaria, and others in Romania. The middle tier comprised influential, though less powerful and wealthy entrepreneurs, including middlemen, commission agents, and merchants with relatively modest financial resources. At the base were numerous low-level economic actors, such as producers and small-scale local merchants. Regardless of their place of residence or financial resources, these entrepreneurs or merchant entrepreneurs deliberately sought to establish and maintain the social and business networks necessary for their economic activities. The networks they created operated at a local, regional, and international levels and connected Bulgarian entrepreneurs occupying different positions within the commercial hierarchy. These networks were hierarchical, reflecting the varying status and resources of their participants. Through them, entrepreneurs exchange vital intelligence concerning their financial and commercial transactions. In economic theory, there are a variety of definitions of entrepreneurship and networks. In the Bulgarian and Balkan context, it should be pointed out that merchant entrepreneurs were economic agents who bought cheap and tried to sell the goods expensively. They were intermediaries between producers and consumers. The main goal of such entrepreneurs was profit obtained in ever-changing market conditions. There were entrepreneurs at different levels and locations who operated in the given settlement, region, and or abroad, regardless of the scope of the economic activity of such economic actors. Two important conditions are indispensable. First of all, relatively stable demand for goods, and second, the lowest purchase price of the goods, which will allow the entrepreneur to pay the costs and to make a profit after selling them. Entrepreneurship is characterized as networking activity, and according to Mark Casson, I'm quoting, a successful entrepreneur will identify the key networks that he needs to join, and for this purpose, he requires a good understanding of the relationships that exist within the various networks. End of the quote. The same author defines network as, I'm quoting, a set of high trust relationships which either directly or indirectly link together everyone in a social group. End of the quote. According to the new economic sociology, economic action is embedded in a web of social relationships because it is oriented towards the activities of other people. Moreover, the term social networks means interpersonal relationships in economic sphere, so relationships between producers, consumers, contractors, counterparts, etc. In the mentioned context, it should be pointed out that the entrepreneur is the one who should unravel people and choose those with whom he would maintain long-term business relationships. On the one of the essential abilities that entrepreneur must possess is the ability to create, maintain, and expand a network of partners through which information can be obtained and knowledge can be accumulated. In the given network, both family members and friends, so people external to the given family, can exchange information of a different nature. Networks play an important role in synthesizing and exchanging information between their members. In terms of the importance of the exchange of intelligence, the web of collaborators that entrepreneurs rely on is also worth noting. It is the trust-based networks that play an important role in the synthesis of information from different sources. To do this, you need to know the right people who could provide information and or advice. The discovery of market opportunities by entrepreneurs largely depends on the possibility of the expansion of social networks, on the inclusion of more participants in them, and last but not least, on the cheap exchange of information between network participants. The relationship between entrepreneurship, social entrepreneurial networks, and social capital has been the subject of increased scientific interest in recent years. The term social capital is understood and used in my research and in the current talk as the set of formal and informal norms of behavior that help the group to achieve its goals, information concerning the observance of ethical norms, social networks, and trust between members of the given network. Social capital is a source of support in the family. This is the so-called family capital, as well as source of benefits through networks outside the family circle. It is through social capital that the so-called transaction costs, expenses for finding buyers and sellers, costs for negotiating and communicating with them, expenditures for information, etc., can be reduced. According to the American sociologist Charles Tilly, the network preserves and generates social capital. At the same time, it represents the infrastructure that supports individual or group participation in risky entrepreneurial ventures. In the above mentioned context, it is important to note the influence of strong and weak social ties on the decisions and behavior of the economic actors. Strong ties are associated with family and close friends, while weak ones are related to less frequent and unstable contacts, relationships with acquaintances, colleagues, etc. Strong ties can provide familiar information to network members, while weak ties can provide up-to-date and more diverse information that is more valuable in making business decisions. The network approach can be examined through the lens of macro and micro districts and commercial super-regions in the late medieval and early modern Balkans, a conceptual framework introduced and developed by Professor Olga Katsiardi-Hering. This approach can be applied to the economic landscape of the 19th century, Ottoman Bulgaria, where distinct micro and micro districts specializing in the production and trade of particular commodities can be identified. Notable examples include the artisanal centers of Sopot, Karlovo, Kalofer, situated between Sredna Gora and the Balkan range, where substantial quantities of manufactured goods were produced. These micro districts in turn formed broader economic regions, such as the Plovdiv region, characterized by interconnected networks of production, exchange, and distribution at a different level. Comparable patterns can be observed in present-day northern Bulgaria, where settlements such as Gabrovo, Târnovo, Sevlievo, Lovech, Pleven, and Bratsa emerge as important centers of craft production. On the other hand, their surrounding rural hinterlands produce significant quantities of grain. At the same time, certain urban centers developed into key commercial hubs within these networks. Towns such as Ruse, Svisto functioned as major transit and distribution points, facilitating the movement of goods coming from the aforementioned districts and regions in South and North Bulgaria to consumers in markets across present-day Romania. Regardless of their size, whether small, medium, or large, all merchants operated within a specific political. Yes, here you can see here a map taken from the representative academic history of Bulgaria from the late socialist period in Bulgaria. Okay, all merchants operated within a specific political and socio-economic environment. On the one hand, the mid and second half of the 19th century was marked by the implementation of the Tanzimat reforms in the Ottoman Empire. These reforms stimulated Ottoman economic life more broadly and created favorable conditions for increasingly dynamic entrepreneurial activity. For example, the reforms introduced by Mithat Pasha to modernize the infrastructure of the Danube province transformed its capital, Ruse, into a modern urban center in which numerous merchants and commercial enterprises in the period 1850s to 1870s operated. This, along with more intensive trade contacts with Central Europe from 1830s onwards, due to the introduction of Austrian steamship navigation in the Middle and Lower Danube, contributed to the much more intensive economic life in the settlements along the Danube River in present-day Bulgaria, Romania, and Serbia, as it is well explained with abundant statistical data by Professor Virginia Pascaleva and other scholars. This was one of the most important prerequisites for the settlement of numerous people with entrepreneurial spirit in the Bulgarian and Romanian ports along the Danube River. On the other hand, the Ottoman Empire and its Balkan provinces became increasingly integrated on the capitalist world economy. A comparable process unfolded in Wallachia and Moldavia, later Romania, particularly in the port cities of Galați and Brăila, where substantial quantities of grain were collected, stored, and exported to international markets. This process became particularly evident after the Crimean War, when imports from England, France, and Austria increased alongside cereal exports from the lower Danube basin. Moreover, as David Cohen has observed, there was a significant decline in the export of manufactured goods from Ottoman Bulgaria to Wallachia and Moldavia. Numerous Bulgarians left their native settlements in Ottoman Bulgaria in the late 16th, 17th century, and especially during the 18th and 19th century, for political reasons, including political turmoil, the so-called Kırgızlı times, and because of the wars between Russia and the Ottoman Empire, which took place especially in the beginning of 19th century. So the war from 1806, 1812, and 1828, 1829. On the other hand, some of them were attracted by the opportunities for entrepreneurial activity and profit. These migrants from Sliven, Kotel, Karovo, Sopot, Plovdiv, Svištov, Ruse, Teteven, Bratsa, and other settlements established new places of residence and business in Bucharest, Alexandria, Galați, Brăila, Zimnicea, Brașov, and elsewhere. However, they maintained constant personal and commercial contacts with their relatives and fellow countrymen who remained in Bulgarian lands. The following individuals and commercial enterprises from Sopot and Karovo may be mentioned. For instance, Mintru Vazov and his brother Kirko Vazov, who managed to establish their own commercial company, Haji Nicola and his sons, Haji Gyoka Pavlov, who managed to run business with their relatives, with their fellow countrymen between Ottoman Bulgaria, exporting goods from the Bulgarian lands to the Danubian principalities. Unfortunately, we do not possess archival material to reconstruct their networks in detail. Several preserved letters written in Greek and translated by Dr. Veselin Goranchev and published by him shed light on the network of the Rusovich family during the first months of 1868. The three brothers, Kirill, Atanas, and Konstantin, conducted entrepreneurial activities across a vast geographical area encompassing southern and northern Bulgaria, as well as Wallachia. To support these activities, they established a durable commercial network. Kirill and Atanas, who resided in their native Urbanasi, were responsible for procuring and dispatching raw materials and craft products from the Bulgarian lands. Constantine, in his turn, had settled in Bucharest in 1853, where he opened and managed a branch office of the family commercial house. From there, he received and marketed the commodities arriving from Ottoman Bulgaria. To coordinate their business operations, the Rusovich brothers regularly exchanged information on commodity prices in the markets of Bucharest and the Bulgarian lands. They relied on trusted agent referred to as our Petros, who carried out their transactions, their instructions, as well as on intermediaries such as Mr. Atanasis Stanov in Giurgiu and Atanasis Avramov in Oltenica, whose role in the network was to dispatch the goods to Bucharest. Another example is provided by the Hamamjievi brothers. They operated a commercial office in Istanbul, trading primarily in goods supplied from their native town of Sopot. Regarding Hamamjievi's business, in January 1859, Dimitar Angelov-Krstich, a merchant from Svistov, wrote to his younger brother, Aleko, informing him that the commercial house Hamamjievi brothers was in a need for a clerk. The commercial house Hamamjievi maintained a branch office in Galați. More importantly, Dimitar noted that Hamamjievi were engaged primarily in commission trade, operating through a network that connected Galați, Bucharest, and Alexandria in Romania with Varna, Kazanlău, Plovdiv, Sopot, Svistov, and other settlements in the Bulgarian lands. Moreover, Dimitar observed that the firm's correspondence was conducted predominantly in Bulgarian, with Greek used to a much lesser extent and no other languages employed. This strongly suggests that Hamamjievi's commercial network was composed primarily of Bulgarians from the land south of the Danube River, as well as compatriots who settled down in Romania. The most remarkable example for such a long-lasting activity between Ottoman Bulgaria and Romania is provided by the relatives and partners, Pulievi and Gheorghievi. Evoghen Christu Gheorghievi settled down in Galați and Bucharest. Their archives, where numerous outgoing and incoming letters have been preserved, provide valuable insight into the personal entrepreneurial networks that connected them, I mean Pulievi and Gheorghievi, with various economic agents at a different level in the Bulgarian lands and in Romania during the mid and late 19th century. The correspondence reveals commercial cooperation based on personal relationships, kinship, friendship, and mutual trust. The life and business activities of the mentioned wholesalers, Pulievi and Gheorghievi, encompassed the entire 19th century, and it can be said that Gheorghievi managed to build and maintain an impressive network along both banks of the Danube River. According to some historians, the number of the Gheorghievi brothers' friends on the both shores of the Danube River was between 400 and 500. David Cohen has pointed out that in the Bulgarian lands alone, the Gheorghievi brothers were in contact with approximately 200 traders and intermediaries. It is likely that the expansion of their social and entrepreneurial network, combined with other factors, is the base of their remarkable success. In their turn, their relatives, Pulievi, I mean here Christo and Nicola Pulievi, contacted more intensively with partners from more settlements in Ottoman Bulgaria, around 30 settlements before the Crimean War, then after it, around 20 settlements. The geographical scope of their entrepreneurial activity is related to the previously mentioned Plovdiv region, from where Pulevi amass large quantities of rice, hides, woolen products, etc., and transported them to the headquarters of the commercial house Pulevi Georgievi in Karovo, and or dispatched the merchandise through Troian and Lovech to Svichtov and Ruse. In their turn, the local intermediaries in Svichtov and or Ruse received and delivered the merchandise via Giurgiu and Zilicea to Bucharest, Galați, and other settlements north of the Danube River. The documents in question mention the names of hundreds of such economic actors in Ottoman Bulgaria with whom Hristo and Nicola Pulievi brothers were in contact. Some of them are famous traders, others entrepreneurs who developed a more modest activity, and third persons engaged in retail trade, craft production, innkeeping, transport services, and so on. With some of their friends, Pulievi maintained long-lasting business relationships. Typical examples provide the contacts with contractors in the urban setting of Etropole. Hinu Panchov is the name of this person in Etropole, Anastas Cânciu in Lovech, or Boru Nenovic and Hristo Popovic, located in the Danubian port city of Svichtov. In other cases, Pulievi used their network in order to establish short-lived contacts for particular deal, financial services, etc. It is noteworthy that Pulievi and other merchants on the period of national revival, so 19th century, have appreciated honesty and good reputation in order to attract certain people into their commercial network. Through them, Pulievi and their assistants bought goods at bargain prices and forward them, I am quoting, in no time to the final destinations. Until the Crimea War, Evoghen and Hristo Georgievi, brothers, who had established themselves in Galați and Bucharest, were in contact with clients, with partners in Bucharest, Brașov, Galați, Brăila, Craiova, etc. A careful examination of the preserved sources for the subsequent time frame shows that Evoghen and Hristo Georgievi continued to maintain contacts with many compatriots who had settled down in Wallachia and Moldavia. There is evidence that the Georgievi brothers seem to have established business contacts with Romanian and Greek commercial houses. It is noteworthy that after the Crimea War, Georgievi's network expanded. They continued to maintain contacts with entrepreneurs based in the Bulgarian lands. At the same time, trade relations with partners, Bulgarians, Romanian, Greeks, in a number of Romanian settlements, in addition to the previously mentioned, have been expanded. Moreover, Evoghen and Hristo Georgievi contacted with persons who were not part of the Pulievi's network. Probably the Georgievi brothers invested time and efforts to create and enlarge their own entrepreneurial network in Ottoman Bulgaria, separate of the web of their relatives Pulievi, in order to have more diverse information channels and up-to-date intelligence for the local market. There is striking difference in the frequency of correspondence of Georgievi and Pulievi. On the one hand, it is clear that it was more rare in comparison with the previous time frame before the Crimea War. On the other hand, there was intensive communication with Georgievi's other friends, Bulgarians, Romanians, Greeks. Last but not least, the two brothers Hristo and Evoghen Georgievi regularly exchanged letters to each other in order to be informed about the current business issues in Bucharest and Galați. Some of the letters are extremely exhaustive and provide clear notion of their modern entrepreneurial behavior. So you may see here the two prominent Bulgarian businessmen, Evoghen and Hristo Georgievi. So here you may see their relative, Nicola Puliev, who participated in the foundation of the commercial house, and he worked there until his death in 1868. Okay, the numerous letters exchanged by the two brothers, Dimitar and Peter Krstić, merchants based in Svichtov, reveal their extensive commercial networks and business contacts between 1858 and late 1864. The rich archive of another prominent Svichtov entrepreneur, Cvetko Radoslavov, offers further insight into these commercial networks during the period from 1840s to 1870s. Similar evidence is provided by the correspondence of Atanas Karakashev, also from Svichtov, spanning years from 1854 to 1870. The commercial enterprise brothers Krstić, established in April 1858, sent circular letter to 164 potential partners in 28 settlements north and south of the Danube River in Central Europe and in Istanbul. Dimitar and Petr spread the news about the newly established enterprise to possible commercial partners located in Brăila, for instance, to Angel Kanovic, the commercial enterprise brothers Georgiev and Teturian, Mr. Marghetti, Georgios Dimu, to possible partners in Gauaz, Giurgiu, Iași, Bucharest, in Lycia, in the Danubian Principalities. It is evident from the copies of the later letters scribbled in Krstić's copybooks that Dimitar and Petr Krstić managed to establish close ties with entrepreneurs in the mentioned settlements in Romania without Iași. Accidental were the contacts with Brașov. Such rare contacts were mostly related to particular services, forwarding of letters, sent money, providing information about the price of the given good, and so on. On the other hand, there are periods in which Krstić were in active communication and mutual business dealings with Angel Repanov, Kirku Georgiev, located in Alexandria, with the assistance of their partners, with their friends. Located in Brăila, Gauaz, Bucharest, they, I mean here, Krstić brothers, delivered colonial commodities in Sviștov, where the goods were redistributed to local clients or forwarded them to the Bulgarian interior, to Târnovo, Gabrovo, Sevlievo, Pleven, and so on. Moreover, the Krstić commercial house exported grain, corn, etc. north of the Danube River, mostly in Brăila and Gauaz. The analysis of the data preserved testifies that Krstić were in contact with Bulgarians from their native Sviștov, who resided in Gauaz, Brăila, Zimnicea, Alexandria, and so on, or with compatriots from the Bulgarian settlements such as Sopot, Lovech, or Banasi, who had settled down in, for instance, in Bucharest, Târnu Măgurele, Craiova. Some of their partners were Greeks, while only handful persons were Romanians. It is interesting to note that there were sporadic contacts with Hristo Georgiev in Bucharest. It can be explained with the fact that Dimitar and Petr Krstić relied on other close friends such as Angel Kanovic and the commercial house Tancel Nudov and Son, with two of his branches in Gabrovo and in Istanbul. Yes, here you may see Dimitar Krstić on one hand, and on the other hand, an image of Cviatcu Radoslavov. So, another example of entrepreneurial web is provided by the already mentioned prominent entrepreneur from Sviștov, Cviatcu Radoslavov. He managed to establish and run several commercial houses that developed their activities in the time frame from the 1840s to 1870s. Initially, he began to trade with hides, grain, and craft items. Later, Cviatcu Radoslavov's social and entrepreneurial network extended to various settlements in present-day North and South Bulgaria. From there, Radoslavov exported large quantities of agricultural and handicraft products, which he forwarded through Sviștov to the final clients in such localities as Zimnic, Alexandria, Bucharest, Brăila, Gauaz, and so on. Moreover, in 1861, Cviatcu Radoslavov's network was extended to Brăila, where he managed to open an office branch of his enterprise. Cviatcu's decision can be explained with the fact that Brăila became an economically thriving Romanian port from which huge exports of grain to Western Europe were made. There were several occasions in Ottoman Bulgaria in which Radoslavov purchased large quantities of grain. He traveled alone or sent his partners or agents to buy needed quantities of grain from the producers or local merchants on a local level in the vast agricultural areas of Sviștov, Nicopu, Sevlievo, Târnovo. Later, the items were redistributed to other partners in various localities in present-day Romania. It is important to note that Radoslavov web consists mainly Bulgarians, in some cases Ottoman Turks, for instance Mehmet Hagi Ali Shugu or Ahmet Hagi Ismailov, and very rarely Greek, Romanian, or Serbian friends. They were economic agents at different level who supplied him with commodities, information, financial resources, fulfilled his orders, and so on. Atanas Karakashev's business letters, actually I had recently the opportunity to work with them, so around 200 letters are preserved, revealed Karakashev's entrepreneurial activities in the mentioned time frame from 1854 to 1870. Atanas managed to establish and direct several commercial companies and he traded with a wide range of goods. For this purpose, he built the necessary commercial network of agents across Ottoman Bulgaria and in the Danubian region. In comparison with Krstić, actually, he deliberately maintained close ties with the mentioned influential merchants Evogi Georgievi, brothers, mostly with Christo Georgiev. So he relied on Christo for advices, for credit, and so on. One can mention many other Bulgarian individual entrepreneurs and commercial enterprises located in Lom, Ruse, Svishtov, Georgiou, Tenica, Zimnicheia, active in the commercial exchange on the both shores of the Danube in the time frame 1850 to 1870. However, this is not necessary. Much more important is that all of them were in close and intensive contacts with various counterparts, Bulgarians, Romanians, Greeks, located in different regions. Most of them were in close economic and financial relations with already mentioned powerful entrepreneurs, Evogi and Christo Georgievi, along with other rich and influential Bulgarians, such as Constantin Chokan, from the village of Arbanasi near present-day Veliku Trnovo, who resided and worked in Bucharest. Their networks include middlemen, numerous workers, for instance, porters to load up or to unload cargoes, forwarding agents, known as Kiraji, who carried goods on land, owners and captains, mostly Muslims, of river boats known as kayaks. One can speak of a complex system of economic and social relationships operating at different levels, which was of vital importance for the conduct of trade. It is important to know that aforementioned Bulgarian and many other merchants frequently use words such as friends, partners, our men, and sadruzhye, or partnership, which reveal that the movement of goods and capital relied heavily on personal recommendations, trust, and strong social ties. At the same time, the hierarchical nature of the 19th century merchant relationships clearly reflected in the way that many merchants address Evogi and Christo Georgievi or other large-scale traders in their letters. Expressions such as your faithful servant or servants, your obedient servant were commonly used, signaling difference in hierarchy among merchants, respect, and the unique status, and that often shape business relations. As it was pointed out, economic action is embedded in a web of social relations. Relationship between entrepreneurs at different levels can vary from friendly to strained and even hostile. Sometimes it comes to open conflicts that continued for a longer time, as it was the case with Pulievi and Georgievi from the late 1840s, 1850s, 60s, 1870s. In other cases, it was about misunderstandings that were quickly overcome. Such moral norms as honesty, trust, resourcefulness played an important role in the behavior and activity of entrepreneurs during the national revival period. In view of the entrepreneur's business dealings, merchants' reputation is important. Entrepreneurs need to have mutual trust with their colleagues. If the merchant succeeds in gaining good authority, he should preserve this valuable asset. Honesty is important because the rumor of unfair treatment would spread in the web and would harm the entrepreneur and his reputation. For instance, the bankruptcies of Alexander Shishmanov from Svishtov and the aforementioned Sviatko Radoslavov from the same port city on the Danube in 1859 provide important insight into the moral code and informal rules observed by economic agents at different levels. Dimitar Krstić wrote to his patron and partner in Barilla, the mentioned Angel Kanovic, the following, I am quoting, shameful things. And it is not enough that these, Shishmanov and Radoslavov, shamed themselves, but even shamed the Svishtovians, or the inhabitants of the town of Svishtov, because they would be ashamed to call themselves Svishtovians, and from now on they would prefer to be called Oreshans. So the village, this is the name of the village of Oresh near Svishtov, rather than Svishtovians. But what can we say? End of the quote. Moreover, in numerous letters, other entrepreneurs from the town of Svishtov provided Evogi and Christo Georgievi with up-to-date information regarding the cases of Radoslavov and Shishmanov. These letters suggest that during the national revival period, entrepreneurs shared a strong sense of belonging to a community, to a common community, as well as a set of shared cultural values. They also valued prestige and reputation, both of which were seriously compromised by these bankruptcies. Consequently, the failures of Shishmanov and Radoslavov discredited the entire commercial community of Svishtov, which explains the resentful reaction of the local entrepreneur Dimitar Krastic. Entrepreneurs of the revival period often very far particular individuals they did not know but wanted to work with, attracting them into their social network. For example, the Krastic brothers wished to be provided with information about a Jew with whom they would like to work. Dimitar and Peter were interested in whether the person is honest and whether he could be trusted because they knew that he bragged himself a lot and he had a habit of lying. To conclude, the presented above case studies testify that Bulgarian entrepreneurs at different levels managed to create different in-scope networks between the Bulgarian lands and the Danubian Principalities. What all these economic agents have in common, regardless of their scale of the scale of their business, is that they rely on their contacts with relatives, acquaintances, and strangers in multiple locations on the both banks of the Danube River in order to carry out their daily business affairs. Along with the circulation of various quantities of goods and financial resources in the system, it facilitates the emergence and maintenance of resources in the form of shared virtues such as honesty, kindness, empathy, and human feelings. For instance, anger, frustration, disappointment. Without that, we cannot understand the essence of commercial entrepreneurship during the Bulgarian national revival period. Thank you very much for your attention, dear colleagues.
Thank you, Dr. NAYDENOV. That was a very interesting, very fascinating presentation you gave there. I have a couple of questions myself, but at this time, I want to let the people in attendance know that if they have a question, they can raise their hand, and when their hand goes up, I can unmute their microphone and they can join the conversation. So, this was, like I said, a very interesting and fascinating conversation. Lots of new information for me. You mentioned about that these were trust-based networks, and I know you described some of this. Some of them were relatives, nephews, and things, or friends, or even how they were referred to themselves as faithful servants and things. Were these trusted networks? Did they tend to have any type of uh, they were relatives first, and if not relatives, they reached out to Bulgarians in these Danubian places, or if not Bulgarian, they were at least Christian, or could the trusted networks include other nationalities, Turks or Armenians, or could they include other religions such as Muslims?
Okay, actually, I can say that in most cases I am familiar with not only the mentioned ones, but also other. I managed to find mostly in the commercial letters I've worked with, actually gave the following, I may say, picture. Mostly relatives actually participated in such companies. There's some instances, because I mentioned to you about the commercial company of Dimitar and Peter Angelovic Krstić, established in April 1858. I managed to find a letter in which Dimitar explains to his little brother Aleko that another person from Svishtov, who is not a member of the Krstić family, also was allowed to enter the partnership with financial resources. Probably he was a merchant, and that's why Dimitar wanted to use his experience, financial resources. So they were also outside people. But in the first place, I may say that relatives, close and distant relatives, actually participated in such enterprises, namely because of the issue of trust. On the other hand, you asked about other ethnic communities. For instance, in Svishtov, the mentioned merchant Cvetko Radoslavov, after his bankrupt, he managed to restore his activity in early 1860s, and he managed to create such kind of enterprise using the influence, the financial resources of such well-to-do and influential Ottoman Turk, a Muslim, Mehmet Haji Ali Shogun. And there are letters actually written in Bulgarian and signed by Mehmet Haji Ali Shogun, preserved in the archives. I had the opportunity to work with them. Mehmet Haji Ismailov is another Turk, another Muslim who also was a partner of Cvetko Radoslavov. So, and as far as I know, there are also other such examples for such enterprises in which participated Muslims. Okay. On the other hand, last or 2 years ago, I had the opportunity to work with the letters of commercial agent of Hristo Petkov Tăpcileștov, one of Bulgarian prominent merchants from the revival period, was Tăpcileștov from Kalofer. He settled down in Istanbul, where he opened a commercial house. His agent, Atanasimov, was sent in Sofia in order to perform his business dealings, to buy butter and to dispatch butter to Istanbul, to the capital city of the Ottoman Empire. And in this commercial company, in which Atanasimov, Tăpcileștov's agent, Tăpcileștov himself, and other such powerful merchants actually signed a contract with a Jew. So we may say that there are some examples for such kind of enterprises in which also Jews were allowed to enter with their resources.
Okay, thank you for that answer. I appreciate that. I see there's a hand up now.
Yes.
Demetrios, I will unmute you, and you can ask your question now. Thank you.
Okay, many thanks. I suppose you can hear me now. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, perfect. Many thanks to Professor Naydenov for his wonderful speech. Paper. I have 2 questions, if I may. First of all, if we have data, to which degree these entrepreneurs, especially the ones from Svistov, another Danubian port, were involved in shipping. Since at least at the 1830s, 1840s, most of the owners, or at least many of the owners of the Kirlacha, the river boat, were usually Muslim Turks from Svistov, Russia, another Bulgarian Danubian port. This is the first question. And the second one, concerning this network of Bulgarian merchants in the Danubian Principalities, do we have data that they used to connect, to buy, for example, cereals from grain from Bulgarian R&Dash leaseholders or large landowners? These 2. Many thanks again for this wonderful paper.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, so regarding the first question about entrepreneurs evolving in shipping, there are some rare cases about that. And yes, you are right of pointing out that actually the owners of the so-called kriks, or the vessels through which they dispatch the goods from Svistov to Zimnice or to Galați, Brăila, and so on. There are some rare cases for that. Recently, I read something about some merchants in Russia, as far as I remember, but it was actually a rare, I may say, a rare practice among them.
Mhm.
So I working with the documents of the mentioned Radoslavov from Svistov. For instance, I encountered letters exchange between him and Ivan Sularia in Bulgarian, or the South Merchant, who was based in Giurgiu, so the opposite town in the Danubian shore, and there are some evidences that he also possess a vessel in order to carry south from Romania to the Bulgarian shore. But yes, we may speak about rare such cases. They mostly hired colleagues, and they were in constant touch with the so-called treis, or the captains of such vessels, Muslims, as you rightly pointed out. Actually, this is clear in the preserved letters. I managed to find a lot of such examples.
Okay.
Okay, the second one,
Thanks.
in terms of their network and data about buying of cereals or grain from. Yes, we possess such evidences, especially after the Crimean War, in the letters written by Atanas Karakashev, by Tsiatku Radoslavov. So they send their agents, the so-called Kalauzi, in present-day northern Bulgaria, not only in the area of Svistov, Nikopol, Uryahovo, but also in distant areas, in Târnovu, Sevlievu, Pleven. So the brother of Atanas Karakashev actually resided several months, for instance, in I think in early 1860s in Pleven, in order to negotiate with local producers of grain and to export large quantities of grain to Svistov or to Nikopol, where they hired a storehouse in order to store the grain, and after that to export to Romania. So I may say that there were a lot of such Bulgarian merchants, not only from Svistov, Lom, or from Pleven, brothers Vatsovi, for instance, who were grain merchants. Okay, so they participated actively in this kind of trade. Profitable, risky, but profitable business, I may say.
Many thanks. Many thanks.
Thank you very much for the questions.
Yes, thank you for that question. Appreciate it. If there are any other questions, you can raise your hand. I also wanted to ask, looking at this time period, this, of course, was just before a decade or two, I guess, before the real independence uprising against the Ottoman Empire. How did this entrepreneurship and these social networks play into the national revival movement? Was it establishing also networks of communication? Was it adding wealth to Bulgarian lands that would be used as part of the national revival? Did these entrepreneurial networks affect that?
Yes, simply and briefly said, the answer of this question is yes, because the mentioned that many other merchants actually use their networks in order to support their fellow countrymen, their own communities in Ottoman Bulgaria under the rule of the Ottoman state. So they spent a lot of money to buy and to deliver, for instance, books, textbooks for the local newly established secular schools, or newspapers and magazines. I managed to find a lot of such clues, not only in the correspondence, but also in other sources. And I think that it's logical, because these people with persons with entrepreneurial spirit, open-minded people, who wanted to participate in this kind of revival of the newly emerged Bulgarian nation on the map of the Balkans, as it was the case, for instance, with the Greeks in the earlier period. So we may, I think, make some comparisons in this regard. I mentioned to you the merchants from from Ruse, from Rushchuk, and Ivan the South Merchant, for instance, participated also in the revolutionary movement. Okay, and there are also other such examples. Yes, they were actively involved, I may say, not only in economic, in business dealings, but also in many other important for the Bulgarian nation processes during the revival period.
Thank you for that answer.
For instance, Tsiatko Radoslavov and other such merchants from Svistov were actively involved in the establishment of the local secular schools. Actually, the town was completely burned during the Russo-Turkish War from 1806, 1812, and especially during the so-called Izgurialstvo. This is the term in the local memory, complete burning of the town in the autumn of 1810. But later, with the help of such enterprising people, actually it was restored. Secular schools were opened, and so on. Later, Chitaliște, or reading room, was created, and some of the mentioned entrepreneurs participated in running of the this local, I may say, in this kind of public activities. So they were highly involved in them, with financial resources, with their expertise of being, let's say, managers. They were, so we may say that they were quite actively involved in such kind of public activities. Yeah.
Thank you for that answer. I don't see any questions, so I will ask. Oh, okay, wait. Demetrius does have another question. Go ahead, Demetrius.
Yes, many thanks, and sorry. I hope I'm not, interfering too much. And just to point out to Professor Naydenov that I asked before about their involvement with shipping, because at least at the early 1840s, maybe the major importer merchant in Braila who had connection with Danubian ports was Angelaki Kanovic, who is at least, I believe so, of Bulgarian origin. But this is not the question. This was just an afterthought. I just wanted also to ask if we have elements, if we have data, about the investment by these Bulgarian merchants and entrepreneurs into marine insurance companies and banking institutions in the Danubian Principalities, because especially in the 1860s and 1870s, we have a series of marine insurance companies and banking establishments which are founded in Bucharest, Braila, Galați, and other cities. And I would like to know more if there was any involvement of these Bulgarian merchants. Again, many thanks.
Okay, thank you very much for this interesting information. As far as the mentioned Angel Kanovic, actually, he, as far as I can see from the preserved documents, probably he is born in Svistov and he settled down in Braila. But unfortunately, his activity of being a major ship owner, okay, we don't possess in our archives such information, okay. Yes, your question about the investment of Bulgarian merchants in such kind of banking, insurance companies, institutions. Actually, I didn't manage to find such information, but it's an open question, so.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay.
I will see also my notes and keep in touch. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. for sharing this information. It's very, very interesting and valuable for me. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I had one more question I was going to ask. I was looking to see if there's any other hands here. I do not see any. So this will be the final question, and we will close the webinar. But since you had access to archives where there was unpublished material, did you find anything that was surprising to you that you had not read before in any published material, or just anything that was of particular interest in these unpublished archives?
A very, very interesting question. Reading all these archival materials, all these letters, for instance, I'm impressed by the view, by the entrepreneurial spirit, by the way in which these people actually behave to each other, to their partners, and it's a specific kind of mentality, and I am impressed by that, actually. Speaking in general about all mentioned here, materials and archival materials, I can say. And I think that all such materials provide very interesting insight into this kind of entrepreneurial behavior. I'm interested namely in that. Yes, in their day-to-day business activity, yes, goods, financial resources, but also I'm very interested in their way of thinking, in their entrepreneurial acumen.
Great. Well, thank you very much. So I guess with that, we will conclude the webinar. I want to thank Dr. NAYDENOV for like I said, a very interesting presentation, lots of new information. I would like to thank the attendees for joining us, and also Dr. Mihai Dragnea for organizing this through the Balkan History Association webinar series. If anyone is interested in joining the Balkan History Association, you can go to the web page, and the information is there. So again, thank you, Dr. NAYDENOV. I
Thank you very
appreciate it
much.
so much, and we will see you another time in another episode. So thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.